Hi there, in this video I'll be talking about what are indices and what are the laws of indices, how do we use them. Before we go into the details, we first try to understand what do we mean by indices. Indices are the powers of the numbers or variables. So have a look at the first example here where 5 is being multiplied 3 times. We can always rewrite it as 5 raised to the power 3 and that is equal to 125. Now when we write 5 raised to the power 3, 5 is the base here and 3 is the index. The second example, we have x raised to the power 5, meaning x is being multiplied 5 times. So x is the base here and 5 is the index. In our third example, y is being multiplied 7 times. We always rewrite it as y raised to the power 7 and y is the base here and 7 is the index. Let's now have a look at the laws of indices. According to the first law of indices, if we are multiplying two terms with the same base, the powers are added here. So have a look at the expression a raised to the power m times a raised to the power n equal to a raised to the power m plus n. So in this expression, you can see two terms are being multiplied if you have a look at the left hand side. And these two terms have the same base. So in such cases, we can add the powers. So we write it as a raised to the power m plus n. First example, we have to simplify 7 raised to the power 2 times 7 raised to the power 4, giving you 7 raised to the power 6 because the powers are being added here. In example 2, we have 9 raised to the power 5 times 9 raised to the power 3. We get 9 raised to the power 8 because the powers are being added here. In our third example, we have x raised to the power 3 times x raised to the power 2, giving us x raised to the power 5 as the powers are being added again. And here the base is a variable instead of a number. Example 4, we have y raised to the power 8 times y raised to the power 12, giving us y raised to the power 20 as the powers are added. Example 5, we have x raised to the power 10 times x raised to the power 22, giving us x raised to the power 32 as the powers are added here. So I repeat, we are multiplying two terms with the same base. We'll be adding the powers. In our second law of indices, if we are dividing two terms with the same base, the powers are subtracted. So we have a raised to the power m divided by a raised to the power n equal to a raised to the power m minus n. Have a look at the left hand side here. We are dividing one term by another and they have the same base. So we can always subtract the powers to get the answer. In example 1, we have to simplify 5 raised to the power 8 divided by 5 raised to the power 2. So we'll be subtracting the powers. As we do that, we get 5 raised to the power 6 as the answer. In example 2, we have to simplify 18 raised to the power 7 divided by 18 raised to the power 3. So here again, we subtract the powers and we get 18 raised to the power 4 as the final answer. In example 3, we have x raised to the power 9 divided by x raised to the power 6. So that gives us x raised to the power 3 as the answer because the powers are being subtracted here. In example 4, we have y raised to the power 10 divided by y raised to the power 7 equal to y raised to the power 3. Again, the powers are being subtracted. In example 5, we have y raised to the power 50 divided by y raised to the power 7, giving us y raised to the power 43 as the answer. So I repeat, when we are dividing two terms with the same base, the powers are subtracted. According to the third law of indices, we have while raising one power to another power, the powers are multiplied. So have a look here. We have a raised to the power m in the bracket and whole thing raised to the power n gives us a raised to the power m times n. So we are raising one power to another power. So in such cases, we multiply the powers. So have a look at the first example. We have 3 raised to the power 2 whole thing raised to the power 4. So in such cases, we multiply the powers. So in this case, we'll get 3 raised to the power 8 as the answer, as the powers are multiplied. In example 2, we have 5 raised to the power 3, whole thing raised to the power 6 here. So here we'll be multiplying the powers again because we are raising one power to another power. So we get 5 raised to the power 18 as the final answer as we multiply the powers. Have a look at the next example here. Y raised to the power 3, whole thing raised to the power 5 here. So because one power is being raised to another power, we will be multiplying the powers. So answer would be y raised to the power 15. In example 4, we have simplify x raised to the power 4 in the bracket raised to the power 5. So we again multiply the powers here and we get x raised to the power 20 as the answer. In example 5, we have y raised to the power 14 in the bracket raised to the power 5. So here again we multiply the powers and we get y raised to the power 70 as the answer. So I repeat, while raising one power to another power, the powers are multiplied. In our fourth law of indices, we have negative powers are the same as reciprocals. So we have a raised to the power minus m equal to 1 upon a raised to the power m. So here you can see, using this law, we can convert negative powers to positive powers. So here on the left hand side we have negative power, but on the right hand side we are able to convert to positive power because we express it as a reciprocal. So have a look at first example here, 3 raised to the power minus 2. So when we rewrite it, we can always rewrite it as 1 upon 3 square, which can be simplified as 1 upon 9. In example 2, we have simplified 5 raised to the power minus 3. So again we convert it to the positive power first. So we write it as 1 upon 5 cube, which is 1 upon 5 raised to the power 3, and that happens to be equal to 1 upon 125 when we simplify it further. In our next example, we have simplify x raised to the power minus 7. So when we rewrite it as positive power, we write it as 1 upon x raised to the power 7. So we are taking reciprocal to make the power positive. In example 4, we have y raised to the power minus 11. Again, we express it as reciprocal and it becomes 1 upon y raised to the power 11. So I repeat, negative powers are the same as reciprocals. According to the next law of indices, we have any number or variable raised to the power 0 is equal to 1. So we express it as a raised to the power 0 equal to 1. In example 1, we have simplify 8 raised to the power 0 here. So you can see the answer is 1. In example 2, we have another number which is 25 raised to the power 0. Again the answer is 1. So it doesn't matter what's the number. If it is raised to the power 0, it has to be 1. Then next example is 9x raised to the power 0. Again the answer would be 1 because any number or variable raised to the power 0 is 1. And in example 4, we have 6y raised to the power 0 equal to 1 again. Let's review the key points now. First law is a raised to the power m times a raised to the power n equal to a raised to the power m plus n. So if we are multiplying two terms with the same base, the powers are added. Second law is a raised to the power m divided by a raised to the power n equal to a raised to the power m minus n. So if we are dividing two terms with the same base, the powers are subtracted. Third law is a raised to the power m whole thing raised to the power n equal to a raised to the power m times n. So if we are raising one power to another power, the powers are multiplied. Next law is a raised to the power minus m equal to 1 upon a raised to the power m. So here the negative powers are the same as reciprocals. So if we want to change negative power to positive power, we can always express it as a reciprocal. And the last one is a raised to the power 0 is equal to 1. So any number or variable raised to the power 0 would always give us 1. I hope by now the meaning of indices and the laws of indices are clear to you. If there's any question, I'll be happy to answer. You can write in the comments. Thank you. Have a good day.